Hello, beautiful being. Happiness, talking about being happy today. Happiness eventually is a choice in your spiritual awakening journey. So we all start out, right, being kind of pulled by the tides of our emotions, right? We grow up feeling like, happy and fun, everything's fun, and then like we don't get what we want, and we start crying, we start having a fit, and then we get upset for a while, and then we get happy again because something showed up in our universe that made us happy, and then we get sad and mad, and we start life that way as a kid, right? The ebbs and flows, the high tide, the low tide, and we feel kind of like at the whim of it, right? We feel controlled basically by outside forces, by outside circumstances and situations. Well, on our spiritual journey and in the stages of our spiritual awakening, we start to realize, right, that there's a broader perspective, that I can have a stillness within, and that the tides can flow in and out, situations can come and go, work can come and go, money can come and go, relationships can come and go, and yet I can still have an inner happiness. And so when I say like happiness eventually becomes a choice, is when we get that broader perspective of that inner peace, of that inner guidance, and we're not so attached to what's happening out here, that's when it becomes a choice. Now, some people might go into like, well, yeah, it's a choice to be happy, but I'm going to grieve over someone passing, or I'm going to, there's heavy things that come up from my childhood. I have trauma. I can't be happy during my trauma moments. And that's a choice too. So if trauma comes up, pay attention to it. Now, I wonder if we can be happy and process trauma at the same time. I wonder if we can choose lightness and still process trauma. Now, trauma is just something that happened too fast, too quick, too soon, right? It's just too much, and the body can't process the energy. So instead of the energy just flowing, kind of like, right? Animals, they go through something and then they shake it off. We weren't able to shake it off for whatever reason. And that's trauma. And it's the energy that it kind of stops. It stops us in our tracks. It stops in the body, and it's not processed. So as we go on our healing journey, we start unhooking, right? We start shaking the trauma up, and it starts moving a little bit. Starts moving. So what happens? Are we going to do processes that re-traumatize us and are too fast, too quick? Or do we feel the trickle of energy and just allow it without attaching the old story to it? We just allow the energy to flow. Let it move us with tears. Let it move us with laughter. Sometimes laughing is a really good way to release energy. It's actually even better than crying, more potent than crying. And so you start moving the energy of the trauma, and you go through it. You cry, you scream, you process, right? And then guess what? That flow can come through and be done in like 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, half hour, maybe a day. But would you be willing to choose happy even in that process or after the process? So can we grieve and be happy and grateful that the energy is moving? Yeah, I think we can. And there's some schools of thought that say like you can only feel one thing at a time. But I've noticed that I can feel lots of things at one time, but maybe I'm just weird. So if you are feeling really present with the grief or with the anger, the shame or the blame as it's moving through, I really encourage you to just let it move as a flow, a river of energy, okay? Let it move like a tide through you, and attempt not to attach the past story to it. Just allow the flow, allow the release, whatever wants to, the scream, the laughter, the crying, let it flow. And if you do that without re-traumatizing and without, activating yourself again, you get to choose joy again. You get to have happiness again. You get to choose happy. And so again, whatever's happening here, whatever's moving through, whatever's processing, you get to choose happy still if you want to. And happiness is truly a choice in your spiritual awakening. It's really your kind of default mode of being. As an infinite being, we have a content, peaceful state of happy. And it doesn't matter what's happening out here. Now, I remember when my father passed 5-6 years ago, almost 6 years ago now. I kept choosing happy. I would allow the grief to flow. I would allow the tears to move through. I would allow the little tantrums to come through energetically. And then I chose happy once that release was gone. And people didn't understand what I was doing. They were like, why are you so happy? And same thing years ago when I broke up with a boyfriend that I had dated for 10 years. And within a week, he was with someone else. It was actually my sister's friend. They were pregnant within a month. It was a little devastating. But I remember choosing happy back then too. And I remember back then I was reading a lot of scripture and stuff every day to keep me resourced. And people again were like, how can you read that letter that was sent to you? It was a pretty intense letter saying, never want to see you again. And how can you be going through everything that you've just come to know about this person in your life and how they've been treating you? How can you be happy through this? And I was just like, because, I choose to be. I choose to be. And how do you want to go through your life? Do you want to choose happy? Because you can still choose happy even if you're processing dense energies. If you're willing to not re-traumatize yourself as those energies are flowing through. And this is an awakening process. This is a spiritual journey. And, we can look at little kids, like they don't want to leave the fair or they don't want to go to bed and they have tantrums and something out here isn't working. So they're going into unhappiness or they're processing their stuff. And then they get happy again when something goes their way. There's some maturity to that and there's some immaturity to that. So let's talk about that, how kids go through that. So one is the outside force seems to be triggering their happy, not happy, happy, not happy. But that's kind of the immature phase, and that's fine. We can live in that immature phase for lifetimes, and that's fine. But there's something pretty amazing about what they're doing as well. So when kids feel something, they feel it and they let things flow, right? They don't bottle it up. They, if the kids are in a safe environment, they let the tears flow. They have the tantrum. And if the parents resource, they can just hold space for the tantrum. Okay, this too will pass. We're still going to bed. And kids can learn to run that energy and then be happy and content afterwards. Now, as we go through our spiritual awakening, what if we could have the brilliance of both of that, being like, okay, this outside scenario does not create my happiness. I choose my happiness. And when something is flowing, I'm willing to feel it deeply right now, flow the energy so that it doesn't get stuck and held in my body. And then from there, we just keep choosing happy. Now, after we've done a lot of healing work, after we've cleared our karma, after we've cleared our chakras, we have a new DNA, we have a new energy field, and we're like, how is this density? How is this stuff still coming up? And I heard the word echo the other day. It's an echo. It's an echo, and it's a kind of like a shadow of, or a shadow of a groove that was very deep, and the groove is getting thinner and thinner and thinner. But that groove has a shallow echo to it, I guess, and the echo of the density, or the echo of the trauma. And when we've moved a lot of stuff out and that echo comes up, we don't have to process it anymore. It's almost just like another habit body that comes in. So what if, instead of having to give that all this attention and all this processing, we can just say, I see you and I'm not choosing that today. Bye-bye. What if we can say, I'm not going to get distracted by that? There's a saying in business. It's called, don't get distracted by every shiny object. And in the spiritual awakening world, we could say the same thing. Don't get distracted by every dense trauma, right? Dense energy. Don't get distracted by any dense energy, every dense energy that comes your way. It could just be an echo. It could just be an echo of a groove you've already cleared out. It's a little habit body that's coming in saying, is this going to work today? And you're going to be like, no, we're done with that. Silly. And so keep choosing joy after that. Now, by all means, if something comes in and you're like, ask the awareness. Is this something to pay attention to? Is this something to put more energy to process? Is this something to work through? Most of the time, the answer is going to be no. We give our density and our trauma and our old stories way more attention and validation than they need to move. So if your goal is to awaken and ascend and raise your vibration, we don't want to attach to those old stories and trauma. We want to move the energy that somehow got lodged or stuck. So move the energy. But the trick there is to not attach a story to it, and not attach to it, and not get too into it. Move it. And it might create tears. It might create screams. It might create laughter. It might create old patterns of thought. Get diligent. Get diligent on choosing for your joy and your happiness through it and on the other side of it. Is this making sense? Let me know in the comments. I just wanted to come here today and just give you this quick message, because it's just a reminder I think we all need. I know I need this, and it's this morning waking up, and it's like, I can get on my case about so many things, and those old habits, those echoes come in and be like, yeah, I'm choosing joy today. I'm gonna choose joy and happiness today. I'm choosing for the the energy of the fractal of source that I am. I'm going to choose my source self today. That's a habit. That's a habit that you have to work every day if you want to sustain the frequency of source energy as yourself in your being, in your body, in your life, okay? So there's some old habits we gotta go, and there's some new habits we gotta really make stronger. We gotta make that groove stronger. We gotta make our whole vibration accept this new frequency that we are commanding and demanding of our reality, that of our source self. So, beautiful being, have a wonderful day, and see if you can choose happiness today, no matter what. And if you need some support with that, I'm always here for sessions or for masterminds or however I can help. Okay, take care. Namaste.